Right, so you want to work on a heel with your dog. A couple ways you can do that. I like to start with treats because you can do this off leash and separately from walking and get them really comfortable with the position and the pressure and the command separately from all of the distractions of being out on a leash, being walking, and encountering distracting things. So, the way I usually start, I want them moving into me this direction. So, I'll turn away from them and have them follow a treat towards me, like this, heel. This is really nice if you have an insecure or sensitive dog because they're following a treat and it's not nearly as much pressure from me and my body. Whereas if I step into a sensitive dog, sometimes that's a lot of pressure and they have a tendency to kind of tuck and retreat back into themselves, and it can damage your trust a little bit because it surprises them and it's too much stimulation. So if you have a sensitive dog, start with turning away from them and speeding away from them. Don't drop your feet. I'll also speed up away from them, and that's the same thing. It's getting them comfortable coming towards me and getting into this position, this position with or without a command. So basically 3 ways. I can turn, I can speed up, or if my dog is in front of me, I can lure them this way and spin them around. That one's also just fun. So if you have a dog that's got a lot of energy and really wants to be moving around, that's kind of a good way to drain some of that energy, allow them to move, which will be additionally rewarding, and practice getting into that position. Yep. Nice little spin. Okay. So once you get to that point, you can start shaping it. So a lot of dogs, once they get comfortable being along next to you, they'll kind of start to do this where they'll kind of start to walk in front of you. So you end up with someone that's kind of walking kind of perpendicular to you and kind of bumping you, trying to get you to turn or give them treats. This is where we can start shaping with our hands. So their bodies follow their heads. If you want to turn them from this to this, you need to turn his head out that way until it's kind of parallel to you, or even farther, and that'll kick his shoulder and his butt closer to your body. So this is what that'll look like. So say his butt is out this way. I'm going to use my hands and turn, put it out there, his butt comes towards me. It's kind of an exaggerated version. Yep. Okay. So if his body is kind of this way in front of me, I'm bumping into him, I don't like that. Away from me, and turn my hand, brings his butt in. Good. Good. If you want this to be really pretty, you want to keep your hand a little bit closer. So it'll be kind of more like this. If you're going for like a really pretty heel because you feel like making, doing some fancy, flashy training, you want to keep your hand a little bit closer. Most people don't really care, and the more exaggerated you are, the clearer it'll get. So do this, brings his butt in behind me. Once you do that, you can easily start turning into your dog, so turning towards them. If you have a more sensitive dog, you don't want to immediately turn towards them because it's the same thing as bumping them or walking into them. It could be a lot more pressure than they're ready for and can make them less trusting and more insecure instead of building that really solid, trusting relationship that you want. So, I'm turning into him. You can do the same thing. We'll start out nice and messy, pretend he doesn't know anything. I'll lead his head and I'll follow. Super easy. And it keeps me, it's not in their mind, it's not me moving into them and bumping them to turn them, which you can definitely do with a more confident dog. But if you have an insecure dog, they're following the treat, I'm just following the treat also. Makes it really easy. You just do that same thing, turn their head away from you and then follow around the outside. If your dog already knows leash pressure, then you can use the leash pressure as well. So, guide him over. What I want to be able to do is use my leash pressure. I'm going to have my hand back and towards my body, kind of diagonally that direction, so that it kind of pushes him over behind me and I can step in front of him and into him without stepping on his feet or bumping into him. You don't really want to bump into your dog typically. It's not comfortable. It leads to more tripping and a lot less fun of walk. So, stop. Good. So, we'll do with just leash pressure. He knows it. So if your dog is just kind of learning leash pressure and is pretty good with it, but you haven't done any inward turns, it's going to be a little bit more awkward than this. But he knows a couple of pops this direction, and he knows to get out of my way. I can also come in with treats to reinforce that. So my dogs know that if my hand comes across my body, it means get over to my other side. This is really convenient for dogs like Moose, who really didn't like people entering his space. He didn't know what to do with it. He didn't trust people. So giving him these hand movements first gives him a heads up. So he's not surprised by the pressure, and it's much less likely to be as confronting and overwhelming. So do the same thing, leash pressure back and towards me, and my hand will follow through and kind of lead his nose while he's getting the leash pressure. So, leash pressure, hands. Thank you for that, sir. Leash pressure, hands. Good. And that's kind of a nice beginning of my hand coming across my body means I want you over there. The additional thing that you can do to back this up is if they're coming towards you, lead them with your opposite hand. A little bit awkward, not as pretty. Does pay off in terms of being able to communicate with your dog with both hands. So we'll do it again. Leash pressure back and towards me. Follow through with my hands. Good. Leash pressure back and towards me. Follow through with my hands. And then as your dog gets better with that, you can do leash pressure first and then back it up versus the more luring version that I was just doing. And eventually, the ideal is to be able to communicate with your dog without the leash. Or if you're carrying on a conversation, to be able to just kind of direct them, give them a hand signal, and be able to carry on your conversation uninterrupted because your dog's paying attention and you don't have to use words to communicate, which I really like.